let's take a deeper dive into components. Now, components, once you see what they're capable of with ILN, is going to be the real aha moment of why ILN is so powerful. So to start with, we're going to create a new dashboard, although this is just to go over the new components. I don't want to just add a bunch of components to show off on this dashboard. This is for school. So we're going to click here, make a new dashboard, click here, start from scratch, and I'm just going to give this a quick name. Now that I have this dashboard for testing out some components, let's go through a couple of them. So to start with, I'm going to add the journals component, or diaries component. I'm going to add component, and I'm going to click there so I can find it. There we go, click that. And now we have the journal entries component on our dashboard. Now I'm just going to make this a little wider just to show it off a bit better. So this component has all of the journal entries and journals relevant to me all in one place. So to start with, I can click here to look at any journals relevant to me or create new ones. Right now I don't have any journals, nor does anyone that I'm following have journals. So I'm going to add, say, a new journal. Click here, add journal, click add, and now we can add, say, new journal entries to that. Add that. And now we have a new journal with its first entry already made. If we want, we can say go to that journal by clicking here. And we can see it here. We can visit that journal itself. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And it takes me back to the all journals. But now if I click here again, notice how it's all journal entries, or I can just go to specifically my new journal that we just made. If I want to get rid of one or something, I can just delete it from there by clicking the edit diary list. Another component that is very good, and this is actually one of my personal favorites, is the destinations component. I attach this to probably every dashboard that I make. Normally I put it at the top, so remember, you can move things by clicking here, and in this case we're going to move to top, push that there. We're going to also make it a large width. Yes, we're going to make it a large width. Now the destinations component essentially functions like bookmarks on ILN. It can take you to places such as specific components and whatnot, or to even, say, entries or members. For example, if I want to say I want to take a look at all my notes, I could just click here, and I'm now looking at all notes relevant to me, all the notes that I've made or the notes of people that I'm following. As a quick little mention for the notes component, before I forget, is that you actually can just edit any note just by clicking on it, and it'll take you right to that word. You can start editing. So I can add, say, don't forget at the very end, and I can either hit save or I can just click off and it'll save for me. Although I'm going to just take that up because I don't need that, and I'm going to save. But that's what you can do. I could do that similarly with ideas, messages. I can go to my calendar in the same way, and I can even go to my cloud files. Again, if you're wondering how I'm going back and forth, I'm using the back and forth button on my mouse. What I can do also is click this button, the add button, and I can add, say, a shortcut to a specific entry. I can add a shortcut to, say, my new journal, and now I could just click there. Give that a bit more width. Wrong click. And now I have a shortcut to my new journal. Or similarly, say I need to keep up with, typing the wrong thing. Say I want to keep up with what Thomas is posting about, I can make a shortcut to him, to his profile, and it takes me right there. Now, I can also, say, change the text of what's involved by holding down a click on the icon, I suppose, and I can type in a new name. So I can just say my journal or something instead of my new journal. And then just either click off or click onto the whatchamacallits. And that is actually similar to how you delete. So you'd hold down, you just want to click the little trash icon, and it's gone. Another thing I can add is, say, the notes component. I'm going to make that small with, okay, maybe not small, medium, much better. I'm going to make that right aligned, move it up, fits in very nicely, and I can keep track of all the notes. Now, because I'm on my private dashboard, keep in mind that all the things I'm going to see here are based on everything that I have created and everything that I have access to of people that I follow or am subscribed to. So Thomas posts something that is public or has shared with me that's, say, a note, I'm going to see here. For example, Scott made a post about the PC part picker. He made it as a public note, so that's showing up here. Or, for example, ILN has public journals, public journal entries, so those show up here because I follow ILN. Similarly, I have the, say, calendar component, where I can keep track of, say, any events. I can add an event, and that event has now showed up. I can look at it through a month display, or I can do it through the weeks. Other things that I can do is actually the community component, which is a bit easier to look at a pre-made community. I can make one to start with, but it's a little easier to just go to one. So let's look at some of the recommended communities. So I'm actually going to use that as a method of finding one. If you're looking for a community, you can actually use the recommended groups. There we go. So recommended groups, we have a Pro 2A, 1 Amazing Animals and Pets, Beautiful Nature, Photography, ILN Forums, ILN Members. Let's go to ILN Members for now. So let's click here. Now, this is a nice entry with plenty of content and whatnot, but the community component actually adds an extra layer of detail and view, which is over here, that little button over there. Click that, and it gives a whole new layer and reformatting of everything. You can see things in the form of messages. You can go to specific subsections, say updates from ILN, say a post about when the notes component was upgraded or when the scratchpad component was introduced, things like that. Similarly, we have messages, which I'm just going to go to social because I know I have the messages component there. So say the messages component shows messages of people that you're following or of that are attached to entries that you're subscribed to. So post from Scott saying that a introduction to dashboards on ILN is very informative. Thank you. Tom's rough day, or any other post that or any other message that I have access to. One extra little thing about the messages component is that it's pretty similar to the journal entries component. For example, if we click here, it'll do the same drop down, except it'll do it for groups and whatnot. So I could say unsubscribe from here if I wanted to, or anything like that. Or I could add my own group if I wanted to, although I don't want to, so I'm not going to. And I can add messages from here, or I could say go to that specific group. So that is what I can do with components on my private dashboard. There is also my public dashboard, which you've probably seen at least once. Remember to go to your public dashboard or your profile. You can click here, and this takes you to your member dashboard or personal dashboard, where it's all about you. It's the same, a lot of the same components, but in a context where it's just about you. This is your dashboard. This is what everyone can see if they have permission to see that. So any of your public entries will show up here in the appropriate components, or if they have access to it. This is how the personal dashboard would look like from another account's perspective. Right now I'm logged into another account, and looking at the personal dashboard, I can only see, it looks like 2 entries, because these are the only entries that are public or have been shared with me. Like this was shared with this account, and these two are public, and all these files are public, so that's the reason I could see those files. Note how everything that's marked private I cannot see from here because this account isn't supposed to see anything from here. Say we have the My Activity, we have My Cloud. So let's actually add a new component here, just to get the idea. Let's say add the Notes component. So for example, I added the Get Chicken for Dinner earlier on that idea, and it shows up here. Things you can learn about accessibility are note from before, my math homework, study ahead of time, all those notes that I've made before. They all show up here. So these three are private, so only I can see these. But this one is public. So say you or someone else visits my personal dashboard, you will see my notes show up here. Similarly, there is also components on entries, as you know. So let's add a new entry. Let's see what kind of components we have here. Remember to add a component, click here. So similarly, we have notes, to-dos, comments, things like that. Keep in mind that notes here will only show notes attached to this entry. So as a quick little is now in the children section of this note, or of this page. So this component will only show notes that have been attached to this entry, but if I go back to here, it'll show up in my dashboard because my dashboard is looking at all notes that I've created as well as any notes of people I follow. So let's go back there, go to the parent just to get me back there, and let's go back to edit, take out the notes component. Gonna change the entry type to say, let's just call it a page for now. And I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite components, which is the forums component, because as a bit of a computer nerd, I have always wanted my own forum to keep track of my own ideas, things like that. And forums always look like a good format. With ILN, it's as simple as I want a forum. You want a forum? Click this button. Congratulations. Hit the save button. My bad. 2 steps. Save. And now you have your own forums. So say I want a forum on, let's just say car enthusiasts for now. Nothing else comes to mind. Car enthusiasts. That's not how you spell enthusiasts, I'm sure. Car lovers. That's better. So, post about cars. We now already have a forum about cars. Simple as that. Click there. We can now add forum topics to that. We have a forum topic about the Jeeps now, and then say I can make a reply. My favorite Jeep. And then let's say 2004, which was my first Grand Cherokee. I think it's 2004. So in that little bit of time, if we go back to the parents, we have my forums with Car Lovers Forum, with the forum topic about posting your favorite Jeeps, and I can already reply in that new topic on that new forum in the span of less than a minute. Let's say I want to edit this, and we can click on this here, this little edit button. Click on that, and then change image, and I can use say this picture of a car or Jeep, and I can click save. Now nothing here has really changed. However, the magic really happens back on the dashboard. Click here. Now that we're back on the school dashboard, we can scroll down and look at, say, our forums component again, and notice how it's a picture of the car. So, like before, click the picture, and it opens the component right there. So now it's much easier for, say, someone to recognize and be like, oh, car, there's the car forum, click. And then they have access to the forum. And then as one final little demonstration, just to get across the point of how components work, and to-dos, whenever I'm doing work, I usually, when I have a specific task, there are 2 things I usually like to keep track of. Is the specific things I need to do, and any additional notes. So I'm going to add those 2 components, and I'm going to just make a quick little manage display. How I do is I change it from the default to flex so that it looks like this. Hit save, and I have a side-by-side view. That's just how I do things, so you can format it however you like. Now, by having these two components here, I can say, let's just say get milk, get bread, and then get eggs. Three tasks to be done. This entry now has 3 things attached to it: get eggs, get bread, get milk. But I can also make notes of go to, let's say, Stop and Shop for eggs, since it's on sale, or something. Get the rest from local grocer. So note how I have 5 entries with 2 different types amongst them, separated by component. I have all of my to-dos here, and I have all of my notes here. These separate it for me without my having to think about it. So if I take another look at the children, I have the 2 notes attached and the 3 to-dos attached, all to the same entry, but these components keep track of this for me. And again, like always, if I go back to my home page, everything, as always, is exactly where I wanted and expect it. My notes are with my notes, my to-dos are with my to-dos, although they would be under a specific list here, which I don't have in this case. If I added, say, a to-do list to here, if I put a to-do list and then attach those to that to-do list, it would show up. But don't worry too much about that. And I would say that basically sums up everything.